Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and today I'm going to get into part three. What I am doing is educating you all on political ideologies. Part one, I did capitalism. Part two, I did socialism. Last week, I did communism. This week, I'm going to get into fascism. Now, if you look at the difference between communism and fascism, one would say that they're both authoritarian, which that is true. Now, I did tell you last week that the Democratic Party, when it came to communism, well, there are two types of communism. There's applied communism and there's theoretical communism. Now, what the Democrats want is theoretical communism, where there is no government. And this is why you have the Democrats running amok right now. And the reason why the Democrats are running amok is because the Democrats lost the election. And they still haven't learned because they're putting up people like Graham Plattner. And now they have another Indian woman running for governor against Karen Bass. Now, I'll tell you what, any woman who's on the left, I will not vote for, period, regardless of what race you are. Because you women, a number of you women, are too entrenched in feminism. And that's going to be a downfall. But that's not what today's video is about. This video is about fascism. Now, I will tell you that communism comes from the left. Where do you think fascism comes? It comes from the right. Now, I can only think of one person who was actually into fascism, and that's Mussolini. Now, let me tell you another thing as well. A number of these political ideologies, with the exception of capitalism, came from Europe. Now, one thing about America, America has the European influence. The reason why America, I call it, is the house of immigrants, it's because a lot of the immigrants who have come over here from European countries, African countries, they were either sold or they came over here from bad governments. Now, if you look at Mussolini, I believe he was from Italy. That's fascism. Now, you have a number of the Democrats who are very authoritarian themselves. They're calling Trump a fascist. Well, I'm putting this video out here because a number of you don't even know what fascism is. You're repeating what the media says. The media, Hollywood, they're all speaking that same language. So I'm going to tell you what fascism is. Take notes. This is an education session. Now, fascism is a far right authoritarian, ultranationalist political society. It prioritizes the perceived interest and glory of the nation over race or race over individual rights, emphasizing strict societal control, militarism, and the violent suppression of oppression. Now, some of the core characteristics are, well, to understand fascism typically involves recognizing several defining features and principles. Number one, you have your ultranationalism. It's a very extreme, exclusionary devotion to one's nation, race, or group. Then you have your authoritarian leadership. It's centralized by a dictatorial leader who claims to embody the national will. This is what a number of the left believes that Donald Trump is doing. No, he's America first because we have no kings, we have no authoritarians, we have no dictators here, except the Democrats. What they're spewing out, that's what they are. Then you have your militarism, the belief that military values, violence, and expansionism are redemptive and necessary for a nation's survival. Then you have the suppression of oppression, rejection of competitive elections, competitive pluralism, liberalism, and individual freedoms in favor of one party control. Now, let me stop you right there. Who wants one party control? Now, I just told you right there the Democrats, they want communism, but you can also, based on what I just told you, the Democrats also want fascism. They want one party control. They want to basically suppress opposition. I said oppression, it's suppression of opposition. That's what the Democrats want to do. So if you really think about it, the Democrats are not only communists, but they're also fascists. And then you have your social and economic regimentation. And that's basically subordinating labor and business under heavy state regulation. Now, where does that come from? It comes from communism. Now, the historical term of fascism comes from the word fascist. It's a bundle of rods with an axe used in ancient Rome as a symbol of penal authority. It was coined by Benito Mussolini to describe his political movement in Italy after World War I. The classic 20th century examples of fascist regimes are, you only basically have two: Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, National Socialism. Now, if you really look at fascism and communism, they're almost one and the same. And if you think about control, that's what the Democrats want. They want one party. The Democrats want to basically will suppress any type of opposition. Now, let's get into the PowerPoint. Because again, you all need to notice, because there are a lot of individuals that are repeating everything that they hear on TV. Also on TV, they're only doing what they are told to do. Now, fascism rises in Europe. Now, after World War I, millions of people lost faith in democratic government. In response, they turned to an extreme system of government called fascism. Fascists promised to revive the economy, punish those responsible for hard times, and restore order and national pride. Their message attracted many people who felt frustrated and angered by the peace treaties that followed World War I and by the Great Depression. Now, this is where we're going to get down to the meat and potatoes. Now, fascism versus communism. Now, fascism is extremely nationalistic. Fascism is good, is for the good of a particular country alone. Now, you notice fascism is nationalistic, whereas communism is internationalistic, because communists believe their system should spread throughout the world. Think about that for a moment. You have two opposite sides of the same coin, but one is just national and the other is international, and both of them are authoritarian. Now, here's another difference between fascism and communism. Under fascism, it does not seek a classless society. Under communism, it does seek a classless society. Now, when you look at fascism, it's also made up of aristocrats, industrialists, war veterans, and the lower middle class. When you look at communism, it's made up of urban, working, lower class workers and the lower class or the peasants, Russia and China. So again, there is a distinct difference between communism and fascism, but they're both authoritarian. Now, here are the similarities between fascism and communism. Both were ruled by dictators, both allowed only one party rule, both denied individual rights, and both the state was supreme. Neither practiced democracy. Both replaced religion with some kind of competing belief system. Atheism, in the case of the communists, religion of racial superiority in the case of the Nazis. And as we look under fascism, let's look at this breakdown. Social, it's supported by middle class, industrialists, and military. Chief examples: Italy, Spain, Germany. Basic principles: authoritarianism, state more important than the individual, charismatic leader, action oriented. Economic functions are controlled by state corporations or state. Political, nationalist, racist, Nazism, one party rule, supreme leader. Cultural, censorship, indoctrination, secret police. Now, you think about fascism, that's what communism is as well. It's the same thing. Now, Mussolini takes control. Fascism is fueled by Italy's failure to win large territorial gains at the Paris Peace Conference. Inflation and unemployment fuel fascism. Mussolini promised to rescue Italy's economy and rebuild the armed forces. Mussolini founds the Fascist Party in 1919. Economic turndown makes fascists popular. October 27 to October 29, 1922, fascist black shirts march on Rome and demand that King Victor Emmanuel III put Mussolini in charge of the government. He puts Mussolini in power legally. Then we have Deuce's leadership. Mussolini was now called the I Deuce, translated the leader. Democracy was abolished along with all opposing political parties to the fascists. Secret police jailed political opponents. Radio and publications were forced to broadcast or public fascist teachings. Mussolini sought to control the economy by allying fascists with industrialists and large land owners. That's large land owners. Now, the fascist flag. Well, the original symbol of fascism in Italy under Benito Mussolini was the fascist. This is an ancient Roman symbol of power, a bundle of sticks featuring an axe indicating the power over life and death through unity. And Hitler rises to power in Germany. When Mussolini became dictator of Italy in the mid-1920s, Adolf Hitler was a little-known political leader whose early life had been marked by disappointment. When World War I broke out, Hitler found a new beginning. He volunteered for the German army and was twice awarded the Iron Cross a medal of bravery. The rise of the Nazis. Now, Hitler settled in Munich at the end of World War One, and then he was appointed police spy to investigate a small political party known as the German Workers' Party. Hitler was impressed by the views of this party's leader and joined a group. The group later changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which is Nazi for short. The policies of this party formed the brand of fascism called Nazism. Symbols of Nazism. The Nazi Party chose the swastika as its symbol. The swastika has been used for thousands of years as a symbol of power. The beer hall Putsch. Within a short time, Hitler was chosen as the leader. Hitler followed Mussolini's example of the March on Rome and plotted to seize power in Munich on November 8, 1923. Hitler wanted to use Munich as a base to overthrow the government in Berlin. This was called the Beer Hall Putsch. The attempt coup failed and Hitler was tried for treason and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Again, he only served 9 months of that sentence. So basically, he tried to overthrow the government and it failed. He was tried for treason, sentenced to 5 years in prison, where he only served 9 months of that 5 year sentence. Then you had Mein Kampf, which means in German, my struggle, written during the 9 months Hitler served in prison. The book sets forth his beliefs and goals for Germany. He asserted Germans were a master race. He expressed his outrage over the Versailles Treaty. He declared Germany's need for Lebensraum, or living space. Hitler becomes chancellor. So the Nazis were the largest political party in Germany in 1932. Conservative leaders advised President Paul von Hindenburg. Again, the conservative leaders advised President Paul von Hindenburg to name Hitler chancellor, thinking they could control him. Hindenburg appointed Hitler chancellor in 1933. The Reichstag Fire Decree. So the Reichstag Fire Decree abolished civil rights protections. The text reads, Articles 114, 115, 117, 118, 123, 124, and 153 of the Constitution of the German Reich are suspended until further notice. It is therefore permissible to restrict the rights of personal freedom, known as habeas corpus, freedom of opinion, including the freedom of the press, the freedom to organize and assemble, the privacy of postal, telegraphic, and telephonic communications, and warrants for house searches. Orders for confiscations, as well as restrictions on property, are also permissible beyond the legal limits otherwise prescribed. Enabling Act of 1933. Well, this act gave the office of the chancellor plenary powers he could exercise without the review of the legislative branch. The law gave the chancellor's cabinet the power to enact their own laws apart from the Reichstag. That's Reichstag. Therefore, Hitler came to the absolute power in a legal matter. So we had the Reichstag Fire Decree. That's my correction. The Reichstag Fire Decree. So we go to Hitler's totalitarian state. Well, he banned other political parties. He created the Schutzstaffel, or protection squad, The SS arrested and murdered hundreds of Hitler's enemies. The Gestapo was established as the Nazi secret police. Strikes were made illegal. Millions of people were put to work building up the military. The Fuhrer is supreme. Hitler used the press, radio, literature, painting, and film as his propaganda tools. Churches were forbidden to criticize the Nazis or the government. Ministers were required to sign an oath of allegiance. This was opposed in Germany by Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Confessing Church. The Boy Scouts were abolished in Germany. School children had to join Nazi organizations like the Hitler Youth. Now, here's the biggest one. Hitler makes war on the Jews, hatred of the Jews, anti-Semitism. They were a key part of the Nazi ideology. Jews were used as scapegoats for all Germany's troubles since the end of the war. Nazis passed the Nuremberg laws depriving Jews of most of their rights. Violence against Jews grew. On November 9, 1938, mobs attacked thousands of Jewish-owned buildings and businesses. This was called Kristallnacht, Night of Broken Glass. Nuremberg laws prohibit marriages between Jews and German citizens, prohibited sexual relations between Jews and German citizens. Jews were not permitted to hire German females as domestic servants under the age of 45. That's under the age of 45. Jews were forbidden to display the national flag or national colors, but could display the Jewish colors, identifying them as Jews. Punishment for violating these laws includes hard labor or imprisonment, and even death. And this is where the concentration camps came to establishment. Nazism in the United States. German American Bund, earlier called the Friends of New Germany, headed by the American Fuhrer Fritz Julius Kuhn. Kuhn was appointed because Hitler wanted an American citizen fronting the organization to make it look like there were Americans truly supportive of Nazi Germany. Kuhn was eventually convicted of embezzlement from his own organization when the mayor of LaGuardia of New York ordered an investigation into the organization. Kuhn was arrested during World War II as an enemy agent and held in a detainment camp in Texas. He was later deported to Germany and he eventually died in Munich in 1951. So, when we deal with fascism, you just remember this. Fascism is more or less national, or communism is international. Fascism is a far-right authoritarian and ultranationalist political ideology. It prioritizes the perceived interest. Let's say it prioritizes the perceived interest and glory of nation or race over individual rights, emphasizing strict societal control, militarism, and the violent suppression of oppression. Now you have the core characteristics. So basically, understanding fascism typically involves recognizing several defining features and principles. You have your ultranationalism, which is an extreme exclusionary devotion to one's nation, race, or group. Then you have the authoritarian leadership, centralized control by a dictatorial leader who claims to embody the national will. Then you have the militarism or militarism. And that's the belief that military values, violence, and expansionism are redemptive and necessary for a nation's survival. Suppression of oppression, rejection of competitive elections, competitive pluralism, liberalism, and individual freedoms in favor of one-party control. And then you have social and economic regimentation, supporting labor and business under heavy state regulations. Now, the term comes from the word fascis, a bundle of rods with an axe used in ancient Rome as a symbol of penal authority. It was coined by Benito Mussolini to describe his political movement in Italy after World War I. The classic 20th century examples of fascist regimes are Mussolini's Italy and Adolf Hitler's Germany. Now, what I did, I went over fascism. Now, again, you have communism and you have fascism. Now, when you look at everything, you look at all of the political ideologies that I've talked about: capitalism, socialism, communism, and fascism. Now, the reason why I did it that way, because you start off being an individual, you have ownership, and the government stays out of the way. The government is there to protect your rights. Then you get into where there is some ownership, but the government decides where the resources are going to be distributed to. This is known as socialism. It is a welfare state. You still have some rights, but the government has a lot of regulations because they want to create a utilitarian society. Then you have communism, where it's authoritarian, but it's a classless society. And then you get into fascism. It's also authoritarian, but there are classes. But when you put communism and fascism together, communism still outweighs fascism. Why? Because communism was international. You had the dictators who believed that they could spread communism all over the world. Fascism wasn't spread all over the world. But as you know, a lot of these ideologies popped up in Europe. Now you have China that's still communist. Vietnam, you had Genghis Khan, Mao Zedong. There were more of your leaders who were killed under communism, like Stalin, than under fascism. Now, the Democrats are calling Trump a fascist, a Nazi. Since when did President Trump put race over anything? Now, he put America over the rest of the world, known as imperialism. He doesn't want globalization. You see, a lot of your countries who want globalization, they're socialist countries. They believe that the government should run the economy. And without the United States, these other economies in the world, they're going to fail. Now, if you look at what's going on right now, no, gas prices are going down. There's not much talk about that. There's not much talk about affordability. And you black people out there, let me tell you something. I know there was Sean James, and I know who Sean James is. He's trying to do politics. Brother James, you need to stick to what you're doing. You know nothing about politics. When Donald Trump mentioned black jobs, he mentioned he really meant the black unemployment rate. You think every black does labor? I don't have a problem with labor. It's an honest job. I did it. Problem with you is you want a white collar job. I just like to have a decent job that I can enjoy, whether it is working with my hands or my brain. The bottom line is when you're saying Trump really doesn't know what he's talking about, maybe you don't know what you're talking about. And it's bad when I hear a lot of these, and I'm an early Gen Xer, but I happen to be one of those that slipped through the cracks. Because you ever hear a lot of early Gen Xers between 1965 and maybe 1971? Many of them have the baby boomer thinking, or worse than baby boomers. And one thing I will tell you about politics right now, we have too many older folks still in politics. We still have some baby boomers and also some silent generation individuals still in politics, particularly on the Democratic left. Now, the Democrats, if you look at their whole regime right now, they don't care who they put up there. They want to beat Trump. But the bottom line, what the Democrats don't understand is Trump is not running. Now, what the Democrats can do is decrease some of his power, but I just still believe the Democrats are not going to win the Senate. Because even if it becomes 50-50, J.D. Vance is going to break the tie anyway. Because remember, the vice president is president of the Senate. And see, a number of you individuals, and on my other channel, I'm going to talk about fiscal spending. Because a number of you individuals out there who are voting, you're voting because you don't like Trump. You don't want change. You don't like Trump. So if you're going to vote because you don't like somebody, don't vote. This is why the Democrats cheat. Mail-in ballots. This is what's going on in California. Now, the Democrats, you really speak of authoritarianism. Well, what the Democrats want to do is suppress the right while they do anything they want to do. That's exactly what they're doing. And if you think about it, the most violent people in this country come from the left. Look during the George Floyd marches. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk. You have the media eviscerating Donald Trump. In fact, he walked off the stage doing an interview in Wisconsin. Bottom line is what the Democrats are doing. They're calling Trump a fascist, but it's your Democrats, they're the authoritarians. See, the Democrats, what they're doing, the only difference between, because they have a version of fascism too. See, under all that bullshit that they're talking, the Democrats want to be the ruling class while everybody else is subordinate to them. And the Democrats put identity, which that includes race, over country. They're very extreme. These individuals don't like anybody who's got power. And when I mean power, people like Donald Trump who have a lot of money. But you got people like George Soros. And there's this individual, he's an American, he's over in China. He's sending a lot of money to left-wing groups. And I have to do more research on it. But George Soros' sons could be in the mix as well. Because these left-wingers are actually throwing money at people to lie. And you have a number of people who are going to vote. They believe everything that is said without doing a bit of research. And the bottom line is this. Just want to tell you individuals on the right, get out and vote. Vote in numbers. Now, let's see if the Republicans, they do mail-in balloting. Bet you the Democrats won't count their votes. See, when it comes to voting, I believe we should go back to paper ballots and no mail-in ballots. unless you have an absentee ballot. But that's the problem. You have too many individuals out here, particularly a number of Black people, who don't understand politics. And yes, it's always good to read, but you have to look at people I'm going to mention right now. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, Bill Ayers. These are individuals who are extremists on the left. Then you have your Islamic community. What they want is a theocracy, government by religion. Let's see what the Democrats are doing. Black people still don't see it, particularly the older ones, still on that plantation. They're going to use these illegals to replace you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to find the illegals as a new voting bloc. This is why they want to give the resources to the illegals. And in the end, I'm just going to say this. Better keep your eyes open. Know who you're voting for. Don't vote for somebody because they look like you. Vote for somebody to whom you believe can do the job. Vote somebody who understands. You're going to vote for an executive, make sure they understand a budget. If they've never been in that position, don't vote for them. Vote for somebody that understands the law. Look at their voting record. What did they vote for? Regardless of party. Also understand the ballot initiatives. And something else. Look at how many times the politicians go on networks like CNN. If they're going on CNN, MS Now, and lying, you don't want them. Because there's so many liberal networks out now. If they go on News Nation, Newsmax, Fox, I don't want really them on the right's mainstream media either. Because mainstream media has a way to influence the elections. Because remember, you have a lot of dummies voting. And a lot of your dummies, it's not even about the midterms. It's about decreasing the power of Trump. They don't like Trump. That's because they were really going by business as usual, allowing people to do their own thing and not being called for. Politicians were running, they were staying in office for a long time. Now you see what's happening to the Republicans, they're getting primary. Democrats aren't getting primary. But when it comes to that gerrymandering, the Democrats started. If you look at what's going on there, whole New England, and the reason why, Maine's considered a conservative state to me, but a lot of people from Boston have moved to Maine, corrupted that state. So you folks up in Maine, don't vote for Graham Plattner. Don't vote for him. And you folks down in Texas, don't vote for Tallarico either. These are strange dudes. I don't believe Tallarico is going to win. I don't. If there's one seat that could be flipped, could be Maine, Susan Collins' seat. But if Donald Trump campaigns as if he were running, he's going to draw crowds. None of the Democratic candidates are going to draw the crowds that Donald Trump is going to draw. And if Donald Trump carries that message that if you allow me to keep my vision going with the right Congress, I can deliver the goods for you. He has to run on that. But he needs to get the economy. Because if nothing else is working, now I don't believe the economy is that bad. I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, here in Indiana, gas is going down. Now I just moved up here to Mishawaka from Indianapolis. Gas is, I know in Michigan City, it's down to 319. Gas here, it's 334. Now, when I go down to Indianapolis, they're still running at 345, 355, but it's going down. And there are people going out spending money. So if we really think about it, you have people that just out here to complain because they're ignorant. They don't like Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome, and they don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm going to say this for you voters that know what's going on: vote your conscience. Don't vote your emotions. Don't vote because you hate somebody. That's why Joe Biden won, because it was really a vote against Trump. Bottom line is, these Democrats want to vote them all out. And that's even on the local level as well. You check out your local government too, because some of these individuals who are eventually going to go national, look what they done, look what they did on the local and state level as well. What I'm here to do is teach you how the government works. I'm teaching you these ideologies so you don't get caught up in thinking that these ideologies are good. The best ideology out there, hands down, is capitalism. Yes, it has its problems. Yes, monies don't trickle down. Bottom line is, capitalism, there's a lot more ownership and a lot more competition. Unlike socialism. Now, socialism works in smaller countries like Portugal and Denmark with low population. Yes, if you Americans want a socialist system, go live in those countries where you can get your health care, where you can get your 4 weeks of holiday pay, where you're not going to worry as much about money, where you don't have to compete. Stop trying to bring authoritarianism here to the United States. And another thing, stop allowing these foreigners to be part of our government because they don't like us anyway. Put them in power, they're going to utilize that government pulpit to destroy all of us. And the Democrats, you're the ones feeling the fire. But you'll never win either, because once they destroy their opposition, they're coming for you too. So I say this: do your research, keep your eyes and ears open, ask questions. Don't believe everything that you read. Heck, even me. You don't have to agree with me. Do your own research. I do my own research. But in the end, understanding how the government works will always keep you from being indoctrinated by the propaganda. Because you have to look at it this way. You want authoritarianism in your life? Because you have to give up everything that you work for and let the state control your life. And you see, when you have totalitarianism, there's no freedom of the press. You don't own anything. You are under the power of a dictator. And when you have the Democrats out here, the Democrats really want that power because they have no policies. I mean, you have Hakeem Jeffries talking about what he's going to do. He hasn't done anything yet. Congress is poor in my book. These individuals are filling you with lead. If you don't know what lead stands for, it's an acronym that I came up with: lies, emotions, assumptions, delusion, and deceit. Because in this country, it's backwards. We're lying to people instead of telling them the truth. And in the end, they get this false sense of confidence and they start thinking that they're better than everyone else. But really, it's all propaganda. And the more you know, the better it is for you. So with the midterms coming up, please do not fall for the propaganda. Doing your research and being an informed voter is a powerful tool for you. People who are gullible are going to vote, and they're not going to vote their conscience, but their votes to put somebody in power who could destroy this country. Why? Because they don't like President Trump. Period. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out the QCIS channel. Well, on that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. 401 Talk Zone radio show. You can find me right here on YouTube. Find me on X, formerly Twitter, Truth Social, and Rumble. For the QCIS channel, you can find me right here on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. Once again, just want to tell you this. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. If the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, just change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.